Hello, my name is MadMax. Today I want to talk about the topic of color correction. Color correction is something a lot of people don't do, and it's sad because it's really simple. It only takes 5 minutes and it has a good effect. So this is a color corrected video. This is the source video. You see immediately that the color corrected video has more life to it. The source video is almost gray in comparison. Now, I have to say the source video in this case is pretty good. There are no big issues except of this really bright spot on my forehead. But apart from that, there are no truly big issues, so the color correction helps, but not too much. But it helps. So first of all, what do we see? This graph has the same x-axis as this. So this axis is this axis. This becomes immediately clear when I do this. So this is a tool that allows me to basically have the not color corrected and the color corrected picture in one picture. And I can move it back and forth. So if you look at the graph, right, you see how it changes. So this axis and this axis are actually the same. Okay, but how do we actually go about color correcting? Okay, here's what we do. You start color correction mode in your video editing suite. I'm using Adobe Premiere. It's a little bit different for you, but the basic tools are always the same. So first you should do is you take saturation and you put saturation to 0, which actually turns your picture into a black and gray picture. Now the reason I did this is that now down here you only see a green graph, whereas before it was blue. Well, the green is brightness and the blue is saturation. So first of all, we want to fix the brightness. Basically, we want to fill this graph up as much as possible. If I go to the levels tool, which is right here, and I change the white point to something lower, you see that the brightness goes up. What I do is I say the brightest point, which is white in my video, instead of being at 255, is now at, let's say, 100. So everything that has a brightness value of 100 is now drawn white. And this is the result. It's obviously way too much. It's absolutely overexposed. If we get saturation back, you see how horrible it looks, right? So we don't want that. And actually, if you look at the graph, you see that now the green graph kind of clips. It's basically just like in audio editing where your sound waves can clip when they get too loud. The picture information can also clip, both positively and negatively. So what you want to do, so let me show you that it actually clips when you go down as well. You see it just ends here. So what you want to do is you want to fill the area from this dotted line, which is about 10, to 110. You want to fill this area without clipping at either end. To do that, you have to change the white and the black point with the levels tool. So I just changed the white point, not so much that it clips, but I just changed it so that it barely not clips, so maybe like this. And the black point is already good, so I leave it as it is. And that's it. Now you already had a brightness correction, that is 1/2 of color correction, so let's get saturation back to 100. And it already looks a little bit better. So if you go back and forth, actually, you know what? This might be a little bit too bright because of this bright spot on my forehead. If it wasn't for that, the new setting would still be a little bit too bright. So we go back a little bit. And that's basically just the way you do it. You go back and forth a little bit. You can look at the graph all you want, but in the end of the day, you need your eye. Yeah, this looks pretty good. This looks pretty good. So now, brightness is fixed, but you see it looks a little bit grayish. There's not a lot of color in there. And you can change this really easily by upping the saturation a bit. Not so much that everything, glows. That's too much. You shouldn't put everything to black and gray either. You want it to be somewhere, in the middle, where it has a little bit more color to it, but it doesn't look ridiculous. Maybe like this, maybe like 120, maybe a little bit less. Yeah, 100, 120 is fine. So right now, when I go back and forth, you see, again, the picture is brighter, the picture has a little bit more color and life to it. Again, let's go a little bit higher, say 125. And it's just a little bit of trial and error, unfortunately. Yeah, this looks pretty good. So this was, what, 5 minutes of work, and it already looks way better. Now, something else you can do, but you shouldn't, is to do white balance. I can change the white balance of the picture around, but basically, you know, leave your hand off this and leave your hand off the white balance thingy. Because the problem is, if you do a white balance in a piece of software like this, and you do not have raw video footage, and you usually don't, what will happen is that you will lose a lot of information, and the video will not look as good. You should always do the proper white balance in the video camera itself. How that works is different from video camera to video camera, but what you need to know is you can actually buy a gray card that is basically, it's an ISO standardized 50% gray, and you can use that for your white balance with your camera. You just hold your camera in front of it in your lighting condition, then you have to do white balance. Again, it depends on what camera you're using. I have a touch screen, and I can just basically touch where I want to white balance, and then it works. Again, the white balance in this source material was already good. If you look at the source video, it doesn't really have a color. It's not blue, it's not yellow, it's pretty neutral, just the way it's supposed to be. And then with a little bit more saturation, we can make it way better. Now, to come back to this, you can use this to make the scene a little bit colder or warmer. Basically, stay away from green and magenta. What you can do is you can add a little bit orange or blue. So if you add a little bit orange, a little tiny bit of orange, it gets a little bit warmer. If you add a little bit tiny bit of blue, it gets a little bit colder. Yeah, that's way too much what I'm doing here. Basically, you should use these instead so you can fine-tune it. Well, you could use this, definitely. For example, what a lot of Hollywood movies do is when they shoot something uncomfortable, they add a little bit of green or a little bit of blue, so it seems cold. Or when they shoot a scene that is, oh yeah, home sweet home, and so on, they make it a little bit orange, so it seems warmer and, you know, more homely. You can do that as well, but that doesn't really have anything to do with color correction, so I'm just talking about this really quickly. Anyway, my name is Max. I hope you learned something about color correction today. Thanks for watching this episode, and tune in next time.